It's the Jill of all trades, Michelle C, aka DJ Make a Move. She cute. Your host of Kandid Kisses TV, everywhere you need to be. And if you don't know by now, it's not your typical interview, y'all.
Kandid Kisses blown away. Kandid Kisses TV for tomorrow today. Man, throw that auto-tune on that bitch. Have you sound like Teddy Payne.
Hi there, this is Kim Cole, and you are rocking with Kandid Kisses TV.
It's your boy Talent, baby. Michelle and Kandid Kisses TV with my girl Michelle C. Don't take it personal.
Yo, what's up? It's bruh man from the fifth floor. In the ATL, chilling with Kandid Kisses TV.
What's up, y'all? You're watching Kandid Kisses TV with my homegirl, Michelle.
Hello there. Have you asked yourself what you're missing? I have. It's Kandid Kisses TV.
Alright, it is another episode of Kandid Kisses TV. I am Michelle C, aka DJ Make a Move, everywhere you need to be. And typically I do a Motivation Monday, and this is what this is going to be. However, it's going to be a little bit different. What motivates someone to cheat? We're talking about cheating on this episode. Alright, let's get it started.
I don't think I do that.
So recently I know everybody's seen in the blogs about certain people cheating and embarrassing their mate. So we're going to have a conversation about what has been your cheating experience, what you learned from it, what you grew, and we're going to go from there. So let me go ahead and introduce everybody, starting with Brother in Green. Let's get your name and your Instagram.
What's going on, man? It's LeVar Norsworthy. My IG is L Norsworthy 613.
All right, Will Jordan, Renaissance Will 404 on IG. How's your boy? Philip Whatley, Ebony League Radio on IG and Ebony League on IG and Ebony League Radio on Facebook. Yeah.
And I am Erica Jordan. I go by Kika Janae on IG. That's KIKA JENIA.
Okay, give it a spelling.
So I'm gonna start with the basics. What would be some deal breakers that you would have in a relationship? Even thinking about getting a relationship, what would be your number one deal breaker?
Well, for me, it's kids and marriage. So just that I want to be married, and I am married. So if the person wasn't willing to be married or have children, that would definitely be a deal breaker.
That's a fact. Just disrespect.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it?
Egregious, long-term egregious disrespect. Yeah.
Okay.
That and don't be a cheating bastard, probably, right? Is there like a checklist or something like that?
That's on mine,
like a survey. You know what I mean? Don't be a cheating bastard. Don't be disrespectful. And also, want to have the same stuff like marriage and want to have kids and stuff like that. So, yeah. Yeah, if you're not down for that, stay out my inbox.
Yeah. Stay at my DM. One of my deal breakers is like pride. Like I can't deal with a prideful person because pride fights with no facts. It can't hear. It's just a hell of a thing to deal with. So like pride, and you got to have a high sense of morality. I'm not about to be trying to fight with you to live in a way in a relationship that's conducive to being able to push a relationship forward. So I'm not gonna. I don't want to do the foundational building. Some things you should probably have already learned.
So no women all together, right?
You know what? Joking. But you not going to jail.
Don't put me in the middle of this.
Well, my number one deal breaker is cheating. That is just the ultimate sin to me. Cheaters should be arrested. I feel like they should go to jail for attempted murder. And simply because, you gotta think about it. When people cheat, they're not thinking about you. It's not even about the lust or whatever caused you to cheat. At the end of the day, you don't value my life when you cheat on me because I don't know if you're protecting yourself or not.
That's true.
So I'm like, yeah. And I think a lot of times if anybody has cheated and they had to spend, let's say, 6 months in jail just so they can sit back and realize what they did, I think there'll be a lot of less cheaters in the world.
Jesus, that's
What's
real.
your opinion?
About cheating specifically?
Yes.
Well, I think that, a person has to identify what they desire in a relationship. Be very frank with yourself. Do you want to be in a monogamous relationship? Because if you don't, then maybe you need to just pursue finding yourself. Because I think once someone has made the decision, hey, this is who I want to be with, and you're confident in that decision, then cheating, I don't think cheating should come up. I do believe that as you are long-term in your relationship, things change. Like the person evolves, you evolve. But that's hopefully something that you're growing together. You're growing, forward. And if someone's stagnant, that can sometimes cause a person to want to veer outside the relationship. But I don't know. I'm committed to what I've decided to commit myself to. So I really can't understand why a person chooses to cheat other than they're just not really certain of what they want and the person that they pick, if this is who they want to be with. So just being very firm in who you are, what you're looking for, and if you found that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you gotta just be honest with yourself and your partner. I mean, there's some conversations that you can have, I think, prior to or while you're, sort of seeing who fits you best, and you'll be surprised at what people are open to.
Yeah,
if you just be honest up front.
That's a fact.
Now, I do think that we're kind of like in this weird. We're on this fault line, right, of like tradition and like whatever non-tradition means, and so our age group is kind of like we are academically open to some other relationship dynamics, but because we have been socialized to be traditional, we haven't reconciled that yet. So what I have found in as I have gone forward, in just finding a partner, is to really be frank with myself and then just lay it out. Almost like an uncomfortable kind of transparency.
Yeah.
And then just see what you get back.
Well, I'm not going to speak for all men, but most men that I've encountered have been afraid of the vulnerability to let us know what's really going on. So, like, if I don't know that you're not a person that's ever been in a monogamous relationship because you're scared to tell me, then now you set me up for fail.
Sure. Most women are not open to that either, though. Then there's
but there's I get that. But I'm a person that I would love brutal honesty than a smiling lie. Like, don't smile in my face, lie to my face, and then I'm like 6 months later, I'm like, what happened? That's right. Because you lied to me. I'm like, you would have told me up front. You would have gave me the option.
Absolutely.
When you take my option away, that's when I have an issue.
But then the other person has to be honest with themselves as well and not be in a place of desperation, because someone may present something to you. They're being transparent, and in that moment you're like, oh, I can deal with this, I can deal with this, and the next thing you know, 6 months down the line, the person is like, well, I want to be in a polyamorous relationship, and you're like, yo,
that ain't
they said in the beginning you were cool with it, well, now I'm not cool with it. You know what I'm saying? So the recipient also has to be very honest with themselves.
But I think we talk about physical safety when we're talking about like STDs and somebody going to jail, but nobody ever talks about like emotional safety. You're talking about you're taking someone's emotions, their reactions, even their knee-jerk reactions, and you're basically like playing Russian roulette with those emotions, right? Mm-hmm. So if you are in a situation where you feel like you want to have a poly relationship or something like that, and you don't disclose that to the person, and you just keep going as normal, what you open yourself up in is anything that's liable to happen.
Absolutely.
One way to look at it is this right here. Have you ever seen a couple that's been married 35 years in a poly relationship? I'll wait.
Exactly.
Where that YouTube channel at?
They got shows about it, but I don't know how long they've been married. So.
Yeah, I've never seen that happen before.
Yeah.
Right,
It's old, but it's new.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying that it's not happening. I'm saying, has anybody ever stood the test of time? Has anybody ever said, I'm so glad I decided to open my marriage up 35 years ago, and it was the best thing we ever did?
No, typically it's daddy got a family up right here.
Right, that was the original.
That's right. Don't mess with them Joneses up there. Like, why it's your sister, cuz.
And nobody ever talks about how emotionally those kids turned out.
Absolutely.
How those women turned out. They're in therapy today. You're in therapy, and your grandfather did that. You're trying to figure out what's going on with your emotional psyche, because you still haven't been able to bounce back from this like war zone you lived in emotionally. So but marriage in general is kind of on the hot seat anyway, though. So, and I think that's why people are breaking. They're trying to like we all know we need somebody, right? We all know we need companionship. I think we were talking about that. We know we need companionship. We just don't know what box to put that in. You know, that works on a long-term basis. And then, like, should it be long-term? Like, should marriage even be a forever thing? Can it be, hey, I check in every 10 years, you know, we negotiate.
Every 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, like an NFL contract. Sign-in bonus. That's the ring. It's the house. It's the vacation.
I'm down with renegotiation.
And then we do mandatory therapy. Then 5 years. Do we do a needs assessment? How's it been working out for you? Do we renew our contract? Go 5 more years? Like how do it needs to be performance based.
Needs assessment?
Yes, it should be needs.
Oh,
right. It should be performance. I mean, marriage should be performance based.
Men need that though. A needs assessment. Are you taking your money?
The whole point is growth, is trajectory and growth. I mean,
absolutely.
The whole thing you hope to do with someone is to grow with someone for the rest of your life, right? Hopefully y'all are checking in on a daily. You know, hopefully you're checking in, you know, on a moment. You know what I mean? You're continually checking in so that you look up and the person isn't a whole nother person.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and I can tell you one of the telltale signs is if you can't keep a regular friendship, you damn sure can't keep.
Speak on it.
If you don't have any friends, you are not the prize.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, you definitely get.
No one likes you.
Yeah. Or if you switch your friends out like every 5 years, like, or no one's your friend except your family. You know what? That's a problem.
They gotta like
That's
you.
a problem. Right, exactly. They gotta like you. Right. To some degree.
You know, I think that cheating is a result of people lacking confidence they can get what they want. Because what happens is you're cheating because either you told yourself that you couldn't do better, and then you settled for a scenario that you were simply hoping for a higher outcome for. So you seek different ways in that relationship to get that. So if you're not satisfied with that person, well, you're going to try to find that satisfaction somewhere else. It's not that person's fault. It's your fault because you should have waited for what you wanted.
Right.
And I think that a lot of times people don't do that because it's like, I want to be in love right now, or I want a warm body right now, or I want to feel what I want to feel, or I want to I want to convey this picture of my life right now. But then the relationship can't take that, because later on, if you have to step out to fulfill whatever your version of happiness is, that's your fault, because you should have waited and got what you wanted. Yes, it takes longer. No, it's not comfortable, but it's still a decision. And I think that's why a lot of times people start cheating, and now you're trying to go back down and back down the line and try to figure out where this went wrong. What did I do? Well, you didn't do nothing. You just weren't the first choice. You were
but that's a good follow-up question. So would you recommend someone get married really, really young, or maybe as they get into the more adult years? Let's say like after 30. What would be the best route?
Well,
you know what I mean? Because one you're in a boat where you're going to a high school graduation at 75. But then the other sense, you're probably not ready to get married at 19.
I think there's pros and cons to both, honestly. I think there's pros to being mature and being able to make a more cognizant decision about what you want your rest of your life to look like. And you have a stronger chance of having two adults being able to make a clear decision like that, right? However, the capacity for people to grow together is probably a lot more probable when they're young.
You think so?
Yes, because you're not so fixed in your ways.
That's true. And
Like,
you're not jaded.
You're raising each other.
And you're able to grow together. So the language that you speak. So now here's what it looks like. So when you're young, it's like, hey, this is what I like. Hey, this is what I like. Okay, let's see what we like together. When you're older, it's this is what I like.
And I'm sticking with
It
it.
is more.
Right. Pregnant pause.
And I want you to figure out what
I
I like.
That's true. Very true.
I feel exactly opposite. I remember I was 19 and the car I really wanted was this Mercedes SEL. And I was saving up for this thing. And it wasn't until I got grown to realize the car was trash. And so I personally believe that there's a woman of your flesh that you want, but at some point in time, the woman of your soul, the woman of your flesh, has to meet the woman of your spirit, right? So they have to meet at some point, so you can really figure out what exactly you need, versus like what do you think is good for you at this time. So I guess it would have to really depend on how mature you are at 19. But I know a few marriages that worked at 19.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know for me, most of the people that I know who are married, who have been for a while, they met young. I mean, they just grew together. I think that there's. I know if I could do it all over again, I would have married my college sweetheart and just call it a day.
Wow. You think you would still be, hot and heavy and all that stuff now?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's not like a. I'm just if I had to. I'm thinking about like all of the tread that just came off the tire. Between 19 and now, and so at this point it's like now I gotta go to the tire shop and just get me some tires. You know what I mean? And you just run yourself just ragged. Emotionally, physically. All these things.
When you're a kid and your parents are cooking dinner, or if you're going to your friend's house and their parents are cooking dinner, it doesn't matter. You're not really thinking about what your palate is like. You're like, oh, dinner's, we're gonna have fish sticks, we're gonna have pizza, we're gonna have meatloaf, whatever it is. It's dinner time. We're all gonna eat together. But when you get older, your palate is so particular because you've spent a lot of time either in certain relationships or by yourself or whatever the case is. Now it's a little bit more definitive as to what your palate says yes to. And so now when you're trying to engage with other people, they're under a stark pressure to appease whatever that palate is, which is not there when you're young. When you're young, you're still developing and you're open. The girls, listen, when we were in high school, the women that I would have entertained then, there's no way.
That's
that's maturity. That's growth.
I was not married my first love.
Right, but
I'm not married my first love.
But check this out. But had those scenarios not fallen to crap because of circumstances that they brought to the table, right? I used to say it all the time. If those, and I guess I'm gonna be candid at the moment. If those women, candy kiss, right? Everybody's pointing at us. If those women had not like cheated or done like young stuff, I probably could have married any one of them. Because I was young enough to kind of like to take the risk, to grow with them, to develop a relation or a communication and relationship that it would have been unique to us. They didn't have to be XYZ, but because of all the things that I have experienced, now I have a palate that says, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not listening to that. I'm not dealing with that. That's beneath me. That's crazy. Now it's like I'm looking at them differently now, as opposed to then. It was
the stakes are too high right now. You're a business guy. You're talking about opportunity costs, right? So at this point, the stakes are too high, right? At 19, I dealt with a whole bunch of stuff, right? The world is your oyster at that point. At this level, I might just murder you.
When it gets to the point where you have to, listen, I've been in situations where I've literally contemplated how can I kill this nigga and get away with it. So if it's at that point, that's when you need to leave. Absolutely. Because it's like,
but does that mean that maybe relationships and commitment need an overhaul? Like maybe we need to overhaul our thinking because to me, I think and this is to your point earlier about why people cheat. So I've cheated. I've been cheated on, but I've cheated more than I've been cheated on.
So why? The biggest question most women have is when they get cheated on, why did it happen?
Well, let me also say this. I've also cheated with people who were involved with other people. So I think we lay this we lay cheating at the feet of men to figure out, and it's just really not that. It's just not that.
There's some hoes out there.
Right. And these are not like terrible people. Right. I don't consider myself to be a terrible person.
You're not a terrible person.
But I have made some terrible decisions. Okay. And what I also had to do was just figure, okay, are we trying to, is the purpose of marriage to own the person that we're with?
No, I feel like it's a partnership.
It is a partnership. But I think what makes things so like if my child, so yesterday for instance my kid did something in front of some other family members, but it was embarrassing to me that she did it. So I got on to her and she doesn't like being chastised in front of people, but I did it on purpose. Right. Then we had a private sort of session or whatever, and it was because she's my child. Like you don't bring shame on this family.
Right.
You know, you don't do things that reflect poorly on how I'm raising you, right? I think we carry that into our relationships with other adults, and it doesn't always work out that way. I had somebody explain it to me like this, and this is going to push back on what we consider marriage to be under the kind of Western Christian, framework. So I'm aware of that already, and I'm not against the Christian framework. I'm just offering different perspective. She said, there's no way for me to give a share of my vagina away. Like when I have sex with someone, he doesn't walk away with like vagina stock.
Right.
It's mine it's mine when we engaged, and then and it's mine when I walk away.
Right.
I think what happens is men think that we own a piece of the vagina. And women eventually, think that too, but I think it's because of how we're socializing. We think that. So instead of dealing with the disrespect 15 steps back, it's like, like for me, the scenarios for me that led up to the cheating, I realized I didn't have courage to just walk away then.
Okay.
I didn't have courage. Didn't have it was circumstantial. It was just like, let me just kind of push through this thing. I had checked out emotionally, but I didn't have the courage or the discipline to really walk out an exit strategy that left both of us intact. And so I took the lazy route and just cheated. I cheated thinking, well, actually I really didn't cheat. We broke up in the relationship. Well, we broke up, but nothing was different. So I checked out emotionally. Right. I checked out emotionally. Right. Then eventually, if you don't check out in every other way, you're gonna cheat, right? But I'm pushing back on this idea. I'm pushing back on the notion that like cheating is the root, because it's really just the manifestation of whatever was going on before in the relationship. Right. And if we're in committed relationships that last 50 years, and we're asking the couple, how have you had a successful marriage? Both people are talking about all that both of you all did to make it successful. But then when it's cheating, it's like, oh, they cheated. Well, yeah, they did cheat, but what were the conditions around it? Okay. You know what I mean? That produced the outcome. I'm not saying that to say it's any person. It's the person's fault who was cheated on. But it just kind of like I think we walk into relationships like I'm going to own you. And when you do something that goes outside the bounds of this ownership, so this was sort of like subordinate.
It's like a contract.
Right.
You decided to get in this contract with me. I expect you to follow the rules. And one rule is don't cheat.
Well,
but what?
Do you want to get commentary?
Yeah, man. I agree. I think it's a part of the contract. And like for instance, you don't own a human being.
Right.
But you, like for instance, if there is a contract, you do own or have partial ownership in the terms of that agreement. And so like for instance, I won't own the human being, my wife. But she's my wife. So whatever under the scope of wifely things, if those things are performed outside of the context of this marriage, she has to own the responsibility of basically upholding what that contract ensues with me. So I think that we're so liberal. I agree with what you're saying. I think that we came in this earth alone. We're going to leave alone.
Make sure you tune in next Monday for part 2 of this episode. And don't forget to subscribe. Tune in every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Kandid Kisses TV. Not your typical interview, y'all.